Good morning. I'm Bear with BearIndependent.com. Today, we're going to do the brief 10 August 22, the Inflation Reduction Act. How do you know a politician's lying? Their lips are moving. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Ring the little bell icon. That way YouTube will pretend to inform you when we go live and drop new content. If you're not new here, you know what to do. Share the show with people that you love so that we can all navigate these uncertain times ahead. I love the long, time-honored tradition of politicians naming bills the exact opposite of what the bill's going to do. The Patriot Act. The Inflation Reduction Act. Okay. I'm going to do my best to keep this a PG show and refrain from offending everybody's delicate sensibilities this morning. The Inflation Reduction Act has been passed by the Senate in a 51-50 vote, with Kamala Harris making the deciding vote. The plan is a large, sweeping bill, $430-ish billion. Let's spend $500 billion in an act called the Inflation Reduction Act. Okay. The plan is a large, sweeping bill that covers climate issues, taxes, and healthcare. It would allocate $79.6 billion to the IRS, with over half of that amount going to enforcement alone. The claim is that this enforcement will be targeting the billionaire tax cheaters, but analysts have been quick to say otherwise. Only between 4 and 9% of the money coming from underreported income is expected to come from people making over $500,000 annually. So, of this, roughly $80 billion that's allocated to the IRS for enforcement personnel. The people that they say they're going to target, that bracket, $500,000 and above, represents only somewhere between 4 and 9% of the revenue that these enforcement people are going to be going after. The lion's share of the expected revenue, 78 to 90%, would most likely be coming from people making under $200,000 annually. And I know $200,000 annually sounds like a dream come true for a lot of people. That's a lot of farmers. That's a lot of ranchers. That's a lot of small business people. Because what you make and what you keep are two very different numbers. And how that's quantified is very important. Business pro tip for a lot of y'all out there on the interwebs. You should always pay all of your teammates well. You should pay them so much that it hurts. But there's two people you pay more than they're worth. One is the person who runs your money, and in this case does your taxes, and the other is your attorney. Those two people, you don't want the Groupon for representation. You don't want the Groupon for tax services. You don't want a 50% off deal on corporate attorneys. Negative. Those people you pay the most money that you can for the best services that you can get. Because a good tax person, it might cost $1,000 more to have your taxes done. But they saved you $63,000 in tax burden. Yeah. Just a little pro tip for you. Still, the Joint Committee on Taxation, self-censoring. Still, the Joint Committee on Taxation has stated that the average tax rate for nearly every single income category is now expected to increase in the next 10 years. Mike Crapo, senator from Idaho, said, quote, "The Democrats' approach to tax reform means increasing taxes on low and middle income Americans to fund their partisan Green New Deal. Americans are already experiencing the consequences of Democrats' reckless economic policies. The mislabeled Inflation Reduction Act will do nothing to bring the economy out of stagnation and recession," agreed, "but will raise billions of dollars in taxes on Americans making less than $400,000. Nonpartisan analysts are confirming this bill raises taxes on the middle class and produces no meaningful deficit reduction when gimmicks are removed and the full cost is accounted for. It's no wonder this bill, which was drafted behind closed doors, is being rushed through the Senate at record pace." End quote. So much for taxing the ultra-wealthy to help the little guy. Those who disagree with the critics say that the corporate minimum tax of 15% will apply to just 150 corporations, of the biggest corporations, and that the closing of the carried interest loophole would enable the bulk of investment managers' incomes to be taxed at ordinary rates. They also say that since the changes should apply to corporations and not workers' wages, talk about a disconnect from reality, and not workers' wages, it couldn't possibly affect smaller households. Unfortunately, that blatantly fails to account for the fact that small businesses exist. Small corporations are very real, very important, and very valuable. The statistics commonly show that 86.3% of small business owners make under $100,000 annually. About 39% of small businesses make a revenue of under $250,000, and small businesses with no employees average an annual revenue of under $50,000. Just under half of all U.S. employees work for small businesses. It's a major player in the U.S. economy, accounting for 45 to 50% of the GDP, gross domestic product, per year. Clearly, what impacts those 27 million small businesses will ultimately affect everyone. Trump put out a new campaign-esque release, media piece. Sky News Australia had it posted up, which is fun to watch because it gives you a little bit of a different perspective when the Australians are watching the Americans and they're ragging on us. Oofda. Oh, how far we have fallen. And I'm no worshiper of men, but even I was watching that Trump campaign piece going, yeah, man, you're 100% right. Would recommend you check it out. The problem is, this whole system is going to hell in a handbasket anyway. You can't tax yourself out of a revenue issue. This has been tried. Typically, the Democrats try that, or the more liberal people try that, and the more conservative people cut taxes, which greatly increases productivity, which spurs the economy into action, which actually creates more tax revenue. So we're going the other direction with this. Tax everything. Tax everybody we can. Don't worry, it's just the richest 1%, blah, blah. Yeah. Do you know technically, I'm in the richest 1%. technically, because I have 4 businesses, 4 American businesses. We do badass things. We save people's lives. I'm the 1%. I'm sitting in a Walmart camping chair in front of some firewood next to a barn that needs to get pushed down with a dozer because it's falling apart. I need to put a roof on my house, and I don't know where I'm going to get the money to put the roof on my house from. And this is not an oh, woe is me thing. I'm just illustrating the point that when they talk about the wealthiest 1%, by the numbers, I'm in that bracket. I don't have a yacht. I don't have a Lambo. I don't have a condo. I don't even own a suit anymore. Nor do I have any interest in those things. But the point is perception versus reality. When they talk about that wealthiest 1%, that's anybody who on paper has earnings greater than $400,000 per year. I'm not rich, and I already pay a metric shit ton in taxes. Don't believe the hype. I wonder why we need another $79.6 billion for IRS enforcement. My guess is because a lot of people aren't going to want to pay it or aren't going to be able to pay it. And we might just tax ourselves into another Great Depression. We've got a recession right now, but we keep up these shenanigans, forget it. One of the few wins for the American people that is actually in this bill is that Medicare will finally be allowed to negotiate drug prices. Now, here's the issue with that. Where are these drugs manufactured? Most of them, China. How's that whole shipping from China thing going right now? Not so great. The CCP is collapsing. Bank runs, people protesting in the streets. It's not doing so hot over there. And we are highly dependent upon China for manufacturing for everything from gauze for hospitals to medicines to keep people alive. The new bill caps out-of-pocket drug costs at $2,000 a year and guarantees that those who are on Medicare will now no longer have to pay any more than $35 a month for insulin. It's worth noting that Trump's executive orders had already accomplished a lot of this without burdening the American taxpayer before Biden struck those executive orders down. Now, if you're on Patreon, you've got the links to all of this. If you're not on Patreon, you don't. There's a link to Patreon in the description of every video and live stream. It's $5 a month. You do you, boo. That's where we'll be. I did an early release on Patreon this morning of why armor for preppers is stupid. Yeah. That'll post here on YouTube too. It's very rare where it posts on both platforms, but that'll post here on YouTube too. But, Bear, which plate carrier should I buy? Oh man, there's so much more that goes into that question. And then what really gets me is like, I'm trying to find plates for my kids. Where can I find armor for my kids? It's like, maybe you should move. If you're that seriously concerned about bullets impacting your children, maybe you live in the wrong effing place and it's time to go. Stop trying to buy your way out of the problem. I'll just put some armor on my kids and they'll be okay. Your kids have a head, right? They have legs, they have arms. Okay, just checking. Anyway, that video's on Patreon this morning. Do we still have a live stream? We do. That's good. The Hill has some pretty good coverage explanation as to what's going on with this bill. I would recommend you check it out. It's in the links that's posted on Patreon. But there's a few main areas: environment, energy, and climate. Tax credits are extended for energy production and investment in technologies, including wind, solar, and geothermal energies. The investment tax credit also now applies to battery storage and biogas. Tax credits created for additional technologies and energy sources, including nuclear energy, hydrogen energy, coming from clean sources, biofuels, and technology that captures carbon from fossil fuel power plants. So green energy is not gonna solve this for us. And this is not like I read some articles and I listened to some people talk about it like this was my job. That's what I did. I was a project manager in the renewable energy sector. Before that, transmission, distribution, power generation. We're gonna need to bring nuclear back online. We're going to need to build out nuclear in the United States of America. The big they have been systematically trying to bankrupt the coal industry for decades, but it really got bad under the Obama administration, and it's remained pretty bad since then. Coal still accounts for 52% of the power produced in this country. Renewables, somewhere around 10%. In fact, I just saw a thing where in Illinois, they're building a 538 megawatt solar array, photovoltaic array. How well you think that's going to work in the winter when there's snow on the panels? Anybody thought about that? Because they don't work when there's snow on the panels. And a 538 megawatt array, pretty considerable in size. So Bob and Phil are going to be out there with push brooms, basically nonstop, keeping the panels clean. It's not going to work. It's going to be a huge waste of money with the promise of offsetting carbon emissions. Do you have any idea? No, most of you don't. You are clueless as to what the actual carbon footprint of a renewable energy job looks like. Every time we stand up a wind turbine, today, every time we put one up, we are 18 years in the hole. It takes roughly 38 years to break even on the carbon that was required to produce the steel and the copper and the aluminum and the fiberglass that made that one wind turbine. And the wind turbine has a service life of 20 years. We're 18 years in the hole every time we stand one up. Cement, Portland cement, key component of concrete. It's the number one producer on the face of the earth. Steel, aluminum, and copper are all in the top 10. It's the dumbest shit there ever was. But people don't understand it. They're like, oh, it's all about green energy and renewables and, offsetting our carbon footprint. You would not believe how many trucks and pieces of heavy equipment it takes to build one of these jobs. There's nothing green about it. What's green about it is the money that they're extrapolating from you. It's just another transfer of wealth. You want power that works? Nuclear, it works. Coal works. And if you're in a windy place, wind can work for you. If you're in a sunny place, solar can work for you. Where renewables really work is on small scale. For a home, for a small community, for light industrial, for agricultural purposes. They work great. Decentralized, they work great. But on a utility scale, nah, not so much. And that's because our battery and capacitor technologies suck, which is why This bill is trying to create an onus for more investment in those technologies through the use of tax credits. It's also dangerous to build out projects based upon tax credits, because if the profitability of the project requires tax credits, and this administration says, oh yes, we have tax credits for wind turbines and solar panels and blah, 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 blah. Oh yes, absolutely. And then the next administration comes in and turns those things over. The wind energy tax credit, do some more research into that. Guess what? Now your job's not profitable anymore. The project that you built, not profitable anymore because of the whims of a politician. Point here is it's all a bunch of horse crap, and they're spending another $430 billion to line the pockets of their friends, extrapolate more wealth from the people, and empower the IRS to take more taxation from people. There's nothing reductionary regarding inflation in the Inflation Reduction Act. Not surprised. Now, if you are one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, here's your chance, homie. Leave. For everybody else, I appreciate you. Real quick today, Refuge Medical, we've got Fairfax in stock. Fairfax, Bear First Aid Kits in stock. Made in America, guaranteed forever, 50 lives saved to date. You guys know the drill. If you're looking for a first aid kit that doesn't suck, refugemedical.com. There's a link in the description. Your promo code is BearNation for free shipping on everything in the store. Fairfax are in stock. Multicam, check. Coyote, check. Ranger, check. Oh, what else we got? OD Green, check. I think the reds are out of stock right now, but everything else, black and gray, check. In stock. Bare minimums are in stock. I think SOBs are in stock. There might be a handful of ARCs left in stock. So go check that out. And it's the last day of the back to school promotion. So School 20 gets you $20 off a Boo Boo 2.0 kit. And School 50 gets you $50 off a public access casualty kit or a pack. So today's the day. If you've been waiting to make the move, I would recommend you make the move today. Also, by the way, turn your ears on. All of our kits are HSA, Health Savings Account, and FSA eligible. All of them. Always have been, always will be. So if you have HSA or FSA funds burning a hole in your pocket and you need to use it on something, Refuge Medical, made in America, guaranteed forever kits. HSA and FSA approved. So go check that out, refugemedical.com. Refuge training, we've got classes in Waco, and I think there's like one seat left in Boise, Idaho, and Dallas. Waco will be at Tiger Valley. It's an awesome facility. Recommend you come out to Tiger Valley and get some, because it's going to be a blast. So if you're in Central and or South Texas, Waco is the place for you. If you're in North Texas, the Dallas class is the place for you. You should come to class. The world is weird. Who knows how many more times I'm going to be in Dallas or Waco or Boise, right? So get some while the getting's good, refugetraining.com. And lastly, Grindstone Ministries. Y'all know us. The mission statement is to break generational curses and to put a biblical covering over widows and orphans and to provide for the least of these being juvenile human trafficking survivors. We've got a couple dozen people in our care right now, and we could not do that without you. So thank you for praying for us. Thank you for supporting the mission. Thank you for pouring into us. Thank you for helping us remember that there is still light in the world, even if there are some very dark and bad places. And it is the honor of my lifetime that we get to go be the light in those very dark places. So thanks for partnering with us on that. Couldn't do it without you. Y'all have a blessed day. Stay safe out there. Shalom.